So, Hare Krishna, devotees, thank you. Welcome to our first evening questions and answers session. We have a whole lot of questions. 27 questions we have. That's a lot. So we'll go through them, not in so much detail. Otherwise we'll be here for hours. Yeah. And if any of you have asked one of these questions, and if you feel my answer is, or you'd like more detail, put it that way, then you can ask again in our next session, hopefully. Well, we'll see if we have less questions next time. All right. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachade Shatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikapatarubyas cha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And I've got my hot milk here. Garam doot. Quite hot. Okay, so question number 1. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, I want to make advancement in the path of Krishna consciousness, but at times I'm losing enthusiasm. What should I do? Yes, well, as with many questions, it's a very good question. As with many questions, we could give quite a detailed and lengthy answer. We could write a book. At least we could easily do a chapter or two in a book on this subject. But here's a simple answer. If you want to increase enthusiasm, not lose, or even better, increase enthusiasm, what you should do, first thing, is get the association of enthusiastic devotees. Yeah, because you become like those people you associate with. There's a saying, if you associate with thieves, you become a thief. Famous saying. If you associate with devotees, you become a devotee. If you associate with enthusiastic devotees, you become an enthusiastic devotee. So that's a simple answer. And, just to clarify a little further, association oftentimes means face-to-face. And if you can get face-to-face association with enthusiastic devotees, great. But in this COVID time, and ISKCON is so international, there are devotees all over the world. So to get association does not necessarily mean face-to-face. You may get excellent association on the internet. Yeah. So this is a very important part of Krishna consciousness, to really get good in association. Second question. I've seen so many initiated devotees go through so much suffering in their life. After seeing that, I get scared that I may leave the path of bhakti. As a grihasta, how should I continue to stay in the path of bhakti? Well, it's not only devotees who go through difficulty. Oh my gosh, it's not only devotees by any means. This world is a place of difficulty. It's called Martya Loka, means the planet of suffering. So everybody will go through some difficulty. It's as simple as that. Lord Ram went through difficulty. The Pandavas, Arjuna and his brothers, went through difficulty. It's the way of this world. But for a devotee should understand that whatever difficulty or good things come my way, it's all under Krishna's control. Krishna's there. So if there's some difficulty, it means Krishna's testing me. And when there's some difficulty, we should try to understand what does Krishna want me to do in this situation? Or what would be the best thing to do in Krishna consciousness in this situation? And then you'll see that the difficulties coming your way, they are there to teach you lessons. Yes, because it's all, for a devotee, everything is happening under Krishna's control. Yeah. So like that, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, a disciple of Prabhupada who unfortunately passed away, but great devotee, he said that when I see a test coming, I think, here comes Krishna in the form of a test. So try and take those difficulties in that sense, that it's Krishna trying to teach you something. And as a grihasta, how should you continue? Well, as much as possible, you should try and get your family to be devotees. If you and your wife or you and your husband are both devotees, then when one of you is facing some challenge, the other can help. This is teamwork in Krishna consciousness. I'm distributing Srimad Bhagavatam, which means I've declared a war against Kali. Will Kali harm me? What should I do to protect myself from Kali? Well, if you're distributing Krishna consciousness, Krishna will give you special protection. If you're just doing nothing in particular, just doing a little something, then Krishna won't help you so much, because he'll feel that you're not really so interested. But if you're doing something good like preaching, spreading Krishna consciousness, distributing Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna will be very pleased and he'll help you and he'll protect you. And what should you do to protect yourself? You should just pray to Krishna. Of course, you must chant Hare Krishna, but you should pray to Krishna that I'm trying to serve you by distributing your message. Please help me. Please protect me. And Krishna will do that. 4, I have questions regarding dreams. I dream and it has become a reality a couple of times. I'm in the paramilitary, so I was tensed whether I would ever get the mercy and shelter from any guru. I used to always pray to Srila Prabhupada about that. One day I saw Srila Prabhupada in my dreams, and he said to me, in time he'll make all arrangements. I also signed a form in the dream. It is only after a few days of this dream I received your mercy and was able to take shelter at your lotus feet. Few days ago I dreamt that I'm being transferred to India, though it is not my turn to get transferred. Now I got confirmation about my transfer from the office too. These kinds of incidents had happened to me a couple of times, where the dreams had become a reality. How should I view my dreams? Why are these things happening? You know, the great majority of dreams are just coming from impressions which are stored up in the mind. But sometimes devotees may get a message through a dream, a message from Krishna. But so many times it's just some sort of mental thing something coming up from the bottom of the mind. So what to do? You just carry on in your Krishna consciousness. And if sometime you have a dream and it becomes true, well, maybe take it as Krishna's mercy. What is the appropriate approach to worship and pray to Srimati Subhadra Maharani with regards to mood, and what we should request to help us progress in Krishna consciousness? You know, generally, if we're going to pray to the higher transcendental persons, it's best really to pray to Srimati Radharani. You can pray to Subhadra. She's the presiding deity of the spiritual energy. But more effective to pray to Radharani. You can pray to Subhadra. Please help me to get the mercy of Radharani, because Radharani is the presiding deity of devotional service. Keeping Krishna in mind whilst doing devotional service sometimes proves difficult due to lack of tangible experience and depth of relationship with the Lord. But Gurudev is a tangible presence within the mind. Is it favorable to simply always meditate that I'm doing this for Gurudev, he'll give to Krishna, while doing devotional service? That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Pray to the spiritual master. You know, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's a nice passage where Lord Chaitanya has returned to Navadvip, having been in Puri. And thousands of people want to come and meet with him. And they come, and they offer different prayers. And one devotee who understands that Lord Chaitanya is God, he prays to him. He prays to Lord Chaitanya, please help me to increase my faith in my spiritual master. So it's always a good thing. Pray to Prabhupada. Pray to the spiritual master and offer your service that here, this is a service for the spiritual master. He'll give to Krishna. I've heard in regards to the knocking over of the Arjuna trees that Krishna was rushing away while being tied up, because he heard the gopis coming and he didn't want to be seen tied up in front of them. And in the past, Radharani and the gopis were older than Krishna. After reading and inquiring more, I have doubts on these statements. How valid are they? I can say, I've not heard of those before. I've not heard such ideas before. We know what's in Srimad-Bhagavatam. We know what our great acharyas have said. And I've not seen anything like that said. Mm-hmm. Okay, does chanting before initiation not have the same effects as chanting after initiation? What's the difference in the two? Yes, chanting after initiation will have, as long as you do it seriously, will definitely have more effect than chanting before. And the reason is that when you're initiated, you become much more strongly connected to the parampara, to the disciplic succession. So the chanting is always good if you're initiated, not initiated. But when you're chanting and your Krishna consciousness is being done through the disciplic succession, by being accepted by the spiritual master who's a member of the disciplic succession, then there's more mercy coming, the chanting will be more effective, and everything will be more effective, actually. So this devotee's been suffering from demonic spirit possession for some years, and chanting the holy names helps reduce the effect of that, but hasn't completely driven the demoniac spirits away. Question is, these entities force me or trick me to blaspheme Vaishnavas and saints against my will, which is something I would never do intentionally. But then somehow I do it and I can't help it, I feel bad. Will I suffer the consequences of these offenses? Or will these spirits, or will these spirits get consequences because they've made me do it? Am I not worthy of chanting the holy name since I'm an offender? Yes, in Krishna consciousness, one of the first rules is do your best. Really try your best. So you really try your best. And you pray to Krishna and you keep chanting. And just as you see the chanting and Krishna consciousness has been helping you, gradually it will help you more and more. And these nonsense things, they'll go away. And these ghosts and demoniac spirits, they will get karma. They will get the karma. And of course you should keep chanting. Just keep chanting, even though our chanting is not the best, but still we must carry on. Chanting, Krishna consciousness is not for perfect people. It's for perfect people also, but mainly it's for people who want to become perfect. It's for people who are imperfect, but they want to become perfect. So the fact that there's some imperfection there, well, what can you do? That's life. But you keep trying, you keep doing your best. How to know if we're advancing in Krishna consciousness and our chanting? Srila Prabhupada gave a simple formula. You can know you're advancing if you see that your material attachments are reducing, your attachments to eating and sleeping, the opposite sex, and all these things, watching television, if you see these things are reducing and you're becoming more attached to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna, then you know for sure you're advancing. What's the relationship between Lord Nrsingadev and Sridhara Mayapur? Well, Lord Nrsingadev, he has his place in Navadvip Dham at Nrsingapali, not far from Krishna-Nagar. And he's there to protect the devotees. Yeah. It's said that after Lord Nrsingadev killed Hiranyakashipu, he came to Navadvip, and he came to that place, Nrsingapali, and he washed his hands in the Alakananda river there. So the river is not exactly there now, but there's a lake there where the river was, and we understand that the waters have become purified through Lord Nrsingadev washing his hands there. Why do Krishna devotees get more suffering and face more difficulties? You know, I don't think that's really true. That all Krishna devotees get more suffering and more difficulties. The materialistic people, oh my Lord, they get so many difficulties. What about all these refugees now? Now there's so many refugees, right? From Syria, from the Middle East, they all want to go to Europe. They're not devotees. But devotees may get difficulties, as I just mentioned, when Krishna wants to test them, when Krishna wants to teach them a lesson. Was the relationship between Krishna and Arjuna the same as a relationship of a guru and disciple? If yes, then why was it? If no, then why not? Well, in their discussion in Bhagavad Gita, it's very much like that. And Arjuna says, Shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. Arjuna says, now I'm your shishya, now I'm your disciple. Generally, their relationship was as friends. They're cousins. So they're like cousin brothers. So it's a very warm, friendly relationship. But in Bhagavad Gita, the relationship changes. And Arjuna sees he's got serious problems. And he, as like a disciple, he asks Krishna, please help me solve those problems. That's Bhagavad Gita. But otherwise, they have a friendly relationship. What to do when the mind is not concentrated while chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? Well, you know, one thing you can do is chant with other devotees if it's possible. You know, we have chanting japa online, Facebook, Zoom, can come and join us. There, morning and afternoon, we do. Otherwise, you know, you have to sort of discipline your mind. You can't just let your mind tell you what to do and just boss you around. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada's spiritual master, he said in the morning, you should beat your mind 100 times with a stick. And in the evening, you should beat it 100 times with a shoe. In other words, we should be firm with our minds. We should be strong with our minds and not just be servants of our minds. What's the difference between the life of a sannyasi and a householder? And why such difference if both are qualified to do Krishna-Bhakti? You know, different people have different natures, that's one thing. Different people are at different stages in their lives. Someone who's a student, you can't expect them just to get married just like that. Best they finish their study, get some employment, and then they'll be able to take up household life successfully. So sannyasi generally means an older person who's been through the household phase of life. And householder is a younger person who's got to go through that experience. So generally, not always, but generally the sannyasi is senior. But there are some great householders in our line. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's one of our great acharyas. He was a householder, except for the last few years of his life. Yeah. So really, it's just their different stages of life. What's the difference between Maya and Bhakti? Well, big difference. Maya means illusion. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord. So we don't want to be an illusion, just confused about everything. Therefore, we should take to Bhakti. We should take to devotional service to the Lord, and by His mercy, we'll get out of illusion. We'll get out of Maya. Why should one listen to and understand Krishna's message? Because Krishna is God. He's the greatest authority on life. And, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, he's explaining what is life, who are we, and what should we do in life. We don't know that. We have to hear that from Krishna, then we can learn from Krishna. So this is why we should listen to and understand Krishna's message, because he's the great authority in life. And he can, if we accept his instruction, we can perfect our lives and go back to Godhead. Why is it that only the material body feels suffering? Well, the spiritual body is spiritual, Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. It's just not the nature of the spiritual body to feel suffering. But the material body, it's a place of ignorance. And part of the problem is that we feel suffering within this material world through the material body. What to do if the mind is not stable and wanders? Well, I just mentioned you can beat your mind with a stick, beat your mind with a shoe. Doesn't mean literally, but it means you must be firm with your mind. And you tell your mind what to do, and don't let your mind just tell you what to do. So if you chant nicely, your mind, your consciousness will become stronger, and it'll be easier to control the mind. When I have too many services to render at the temple, it takes up my whole day, and as a result, I'm unable to chant my rounds. What to do in this situation? See, the thing is this, we must do service, it's very important, but you can't, if you're getting too many services, people are trying to give you too much to do, at some point you'll just have to very respectfully refuse and just say, I'm sorry, I cannot do it. Otherwise, you'll just get too overburdened and you'll have to over-endeavor. Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Instruction says we must not over-endeavor for things which are hard to obtain. So you keep a balanced program. So you've got some nice service to do, but you also have good time for chanting nicely. I've experienced that the more I try to render service, the more I'm being abused and criticized by devotees. Why and how to deal with this? I think it's a special test for you because I don't have that experience, that the more I'm rendering service, the more I'm being abused and criticized. At least some criticism, that's going to come to everybody from time to time. But if we render service nicely, if we're serving in the right mood, then Krishna will help us and we'll not have to face too many difficulties. I've read about sages. I want to know who these sages are. Are the Vaishnavas who deliver regular classes at the temple, YouTube, and senior devotees, are they considered as good as sages or like pure Vaishnavas? Well, they're different devotees are on different levels. But certainly the more advanced devotees and the very senior devotees, they're like sages. But otherwise, the traditional sages, they're people like Narada Muni, Parashara Muni. These people, they're the traditional sages, Shukadev Goswami and so on. But the advanced devotees in our lives, in our movement, they're also sages, and they're also pure Vaishnavas. I've had experience that many senior Vaishnavas advise and guide me that I shouldn't talk about other devotees or read mundane things. But at the same time, I see that they do talk about devotees and do everything that they advise me not to do. In this situation, how to remain undisturbed or remain unpolluted within my mind. It's definitely not that all senior devotees are doing like that. It is not. I know so many senior devotees, and they're not doing those types of things. But, sometimes there may be someone who becomes spiritually weak, and they may do some of the things that they advise us not to do. So, there's a saying, you can take gold from a dirty place. So even if that devotee is not setting the proper example, but if what they're saying is correct, then you can take what they say and apply it. You can do that. Otherwise, you should try to find Vaishnavas who are good examples, and they exist. They definitely exist. I am very new to Krishna consciousness. Please can you tell what is the key to progress or advance in bhakti and serve Radha and Krishna with utmost love? Yeah. Well, one of the main keys, if not the main, is to get the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Yes. then that person can give you direction, and from that person you will learn what to do, what not to do, how to do things properly. So that's probably the first key. Secondly, you should chant Hare Krishna. Of course, if you have a spiritual master, the spiritual master will tell you that anyway. Yeah. So therefore I'd say, first thing, take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. I try to remember Krishna all the time, and I try to only talk about Krishna. What is the best way to get the taste for hearing and chanting the holy name? Well, I mentioned at the beginning, we should get the association of advanced devotees. If you get the association of devotees who are really attached to chanting very nicely, and they're just doing it very strongly every day, if you associate with them, then by their influence, you'll develop a taste for hearing and chanting. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada advised against jumping to Canto 10 prematurely. With this coming month, though, one may be eager to study the Damodar pastime in more detail than what we find in Krishna book. Is this favorable? And if so, how can we avoid pitfalls and approach it appropriately? Yeah. The best thing, and unless you're a really very experienced devotee and you've read all of Prabhupada's books a number of times and you're really familiar with his teachings, the best thing is to stick with Prabhupada's books. Yeah. Otherwise, there'll be senior devotees during this month of Kartik who will be giving classes about the Damodar Leela, and in some cases they'll be giving some more detail and some deeper points, so you can listen to those classes. How to remain calm after continuous failures. We tend to give up easily and attract negativity very easily. Yeah. If you've been going through difficulty, you should understand this is Krishna testing me. And you should pray to Krishna. My dear Krishna, please help me to understand what lessons you want me to learn while I'm going through these difficulties. And if you pray like that, Krishna will help you to understand what you should be learning. And in this way, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, failure can be the stepping stone to success. Yeah. If your failures and difficulties can be learning experiences, then that will help you a lot. Otherwise, if everything's just going fine, then there'll be the tendency to think, yeah, I'm good, I'm okay, I've got nothing to worry about. And you'll become overconfident, complacent. That's not good for you. So, final question. How will I know when to ask you questions and what questions? There's a saying, the only silly question is the one which is not asked. That's a good one, isn't it? The only silly question is the one that is not asked. So, in ISKCON, It's not that the spiritual masters are the only ones you can ask. There are other senior devotees. You can ask them. But if you have a question which is important to you, and the local devotees are not able to really answer your question, then you can ask. You can ask me. Yeah. But as much as possible, try to get answers to your questions locally. It's much easier, for one thing, much simpler. And these other more senior devotees in our movement, they may not officially be gurus, but there's so many who are very good devotees and they know a lot and they can help you in your Krishna consciousness. It's not that the guru is the only one who can help. Okay, devotees, Hare Krishna. Thank you for your nice questions. And otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.